Hey everyone, Diavolo here, and in today's video I'm going to go over all of the breathing styles throughout the entire Demon Slayer series. So firstly, breathing forms are swordsmanship styles throughout the Demon Slayer world that make use of an esoteric breathing technique known as total concentration breathing. If unsure, an esoteric technique, or just the meaning in general, is simply one intended for or likely to be understood by only a small number of people with a specialized knowledge or interest, which, to put it plain and simply, is exactly what happens throughout the entire story and even inside of the Demon Slayer headquarters, with countless numbers of unnamed slayers who never even achieved the first step in unlocking their own breathing style. But if you do make it past this first strength barrier, all known breathing styles currently taught within the Demon Slayer core are derived from sun breathing. This is just due to the fact that the first person who discovered and brought breathing styles to the Slayers, Yoriichi, was unable to teach any of them his sun breathing forms. So to work around this, he played to each person's strength and taught them a modified breathing system. This is where we are introduced to all of the current breathing forms that we see throughout the entire story. But firstly, sun breathing, or as we come to know it through Tanjiro's version, the Hinokami Kagura, is a breathing style only known and taught by the Kamado family. There are 12 individual forms of this technique that we learn over time, but massive spoiler I guess, in reality, or technically however you want to look at it, there is only actually one form made up of 12 different techniques that when all connected together complete the original attack or form that Yoriichi had intended in the first place. Before Tanjiro, there were 3 other users of the style. They were Tanjiro Kamado, who's Tanjiro's dad, Sumiyoshi, who was the first ancestor of the Kamado family to inherit the sun breathing, and obviously the goat himself, Yoriichi Tsukikuni. This next breathing style is a personal favourite of mine and one of the 5 main breathing styles directly derived from sun breathing. Flame breathing is a breathing style that mimics flames and replicates it within the user's movements, techniques and abilities. There are 9 techniques in total within this style with 6 known forms. Among these, the insanely beautiful 9th form Rengoku is an esoteric art exclusively to the Rengoku family. Most, if not all known techniques and forms involve extremely powerful singular strikes which burn their opponents, with most attacks being initiated from above an opponent or by swinging from above their own head with their sword. When it comes to the known users, Kyojuro along with his father are the only people that we see using this breathing technique. But prior to creating her own form called love breathing, Mitsuri also used flame breathing. Sticking with Mitsuri and her love breathing, it is a style, as I said before, made by altering the flame breathing she learned from Kyojuro to suit her specific needs. It takes advantage of her body's unique muscle density, which grants her inhuman strength without making her physically bulky. In turn, this allows her to deliver fast and powerful blows while moving with her incredible flexibility and agility. Love breathing has 6 forms at a minimum, with 5 known techniques revealed throughout the battles that we see. As love breathing relies on her body's special muscle density, it is a style that only she can use, and from there it can also be assumed that this breathing style requires her whip-like katana to use as well, to its utmost ability at least. Another of the 5 main breathing styles originally taught to members of the Demon Slayer core is that of the thunder breathing, which like the name somewhat suggests, it is a breathing style that copies lightning, more directly the swift strikes and instantaneous flashes corresponding to lightning ripping through the sky. Users also mimic lightning where building up to perform techniques as they can cause the air to vibrate and create immensely loud sounds, just like thunder with each step that they take. Thunder breathing has 6 standard forms in total, with the first form said to be the foundation for all the other forms. However, Zenitsu developed his own 7th form called the Honokazuchi no Kami, which was in order to stand on equal ground and fight alongside Kaigaku, his former senior disciple under Jigoro. Those 3 are also the only known users of thunder breathing that were introduced throughout the story. Most, if not all of the known techniques and forms involve utilizing building up speeds and immensely fast attacks to overwhelm the enemy instantly. Users of thunder breathing also visualize themselves seemingly creating and trying to manipulate lightning and electricity when unleashing techniques. Just like flame breathing, thunder also has an offshoot, which led directly to the creation of another breathing style. This here is the fantastically explosive sound breathing. Most of, if not all of the known techniques and forms, of which there are 5 at a minimum, utilize explosives to deal massive amounts of damage while making use of extremely fast movements as well as the user's sense of hearing. The only known user of the style, Tengen Uzui, uses a style developed using his superhuman sense of hearing called the musical score technique, which involves Tengen reading his opponent's motions and deconstructing them into sound by analysing the rhythm of their movements. Through this, he is able to read them like a sheet of musical paper to take advantage advantage of the openings to a much greater effect. Like Mitsuri as well, Tengen also created his own style, so it can be assumed that his breathing forms are only able to be used with his two massive cleavers. So next up in the family tree of breathing forms is the moon breathing, which, like its creator Michikatsu Tsukikuni, is one of the most overbearing and intense styles throughout the story. This is due to the fact that Michikatsu is the twin brother of the originator of breathing forms in the first place, Yoriichi. However, just like everyone else that was taught by Yoriichi, he was unable to ever learn sun breathing and in turn trained in an alternative breathing style which later became moon breathing. This breathing style is only used by the upper rank 1, Kokushibo, previously known as obviously Michikatsu. Once he did become a demon though, he improved his breathing style using his blood demon art, which he used to create dozens of controllable crescent moons from his swords, making this breathing style one of, if not the most powerful and deadly one ever shown. As Kokushibo lived for centuries, continuously improving his moon breathing style, he eventually developed at least 16 different techniques by the time of the Infinity Castle arc. Pretty much all of the forms seen are varied swordsmanship techniques that focus on swift and powerful strikes that always follow the shape and pattern of a crescent moon. Because of this breathing style's great amount of variation in techniques, this form has a great blend of offensive and defensive capabilities, similar to sun breathing. Moving on, we come to another of the 5 original forms, which is the most common breathing style among demon slayers due to it being the easiest to learn for beginners. This is the water breathing, which like the other styles mimics the elements named after it. With water breathing, it's more the flow, flexibility and adaptability of the liquid that the slayer will try and adapt into their swordplay. Water breathing has 10 techniques, with an 11th one created and exclusively used by the current water Hashira Giyu Tomioka, along with numerous modified versions of pre-existing forms. Pretty much all of the techniques require the user bending their body, arm and weapon in a fluid motion to match the movements of rushing or flowing water. Users also visualize themselves seemingly creating and manipulating water when unleashing its techniques. Because it's the most common style, there have been a bunch of people who have been said to use it or that we've seen use it. They include Sakonji, along with his trainees Giyu, Tanjiro and Murata. However, Murata's water form is like literally so weak that it's only ever mentioned once in a little like section of text before a chapter. I can't even remember like exactly where I saw it, I just know that I have seen it 100%. And finally, obviously, the deceased members that Sakonji had trained, Sabiso and Mikomo, along with countless unnamed trainees. Due to water breathing being the most common, this has led to it having the most offshoots or derivatives. The first of these is Aguro Obanai's Serpent Breathing. Since this technique is currently known to be only utilized by Obanai, it is thought that the user's snake-like blade is imperative for this technique to work in a similar way to the other Hashira who have created their own breathing styles. Serpent breathing has 5 known techniques and forms, all of which are shown throughout the story. Each of these forms focus on twisting and bending the sword, just like how a serpent would slither its way through things. The attacks are not direct and constantly meander, which can ultimately let the attacker strike anywhere in a confusing and frightening manner. The next breathing form derived from water breathing is that of flower breathing. This interesting, yet barely known breathing style is only ever used by 2 individuals, both being a generation apart. These being the elder sister of Shinobu, Kanae Kocho, and Kano. Man, I always struggle with their names. I don't know why, I struggle with names in general, but man, I always struggle with their names for some reason. Unlike other derived abilities, it is not necessary to have a specific type of weapon to fight with flower breathing. There are at least 7 different techniques, including the flower breathing final form, all of which are graceful attacks that solely focus on agility over pure strength. This style also enhances and utilizes one's vision, albeit at the possible cost of their eyesight, as revealed in Kano's battle against the upper rank 2. When it comes to Shinobu Kocho, she most likely trained to learn this form early on, but due to her extremely petite body structure, she had to come up with an alternative which turned out to be her prolific insect breathing. This swordplay can only be utilized by her and only using a unique katana with a needle-like tip, resembling an insect stinger in appearance and in function. The stinger is exactly designed for an injection of wisteria poison into a demon, and insect breathing has 4 known techniques and forms. However, they were never specifically numbered, so it's hard to gauge how many more techniques she might have cultivated exactly, but all the known forms include stabbing, thrusting, and making shallow cuts with her needle sword to inflict multiple wounds in order to inject various amounts of lethal wisteria-based poisons into them. So this next breathing form is another personal favorite of mine, just due to the fact that Sanemi Shinizugawa is its current user, and that it also resembles a real-life Japanese swordsmanship style called the Jigen Ryu, which, probably got that wrong, which like wind breathing is a sword-wielding style that emphasizes on the first strike and high stances. If confused, because I've said high stances I think once before, high stances are like mobile stances that allow one to reposition rapidly, whereas low stances are very powerful and assist delivery of power through the body to either the arms or the legs. So if someone bends their legs, pretty much when they're performing any breathing form, it's a low stance, and vice versa for a high stance. With wind breathing, there are at least 9 techniques, with all of them being seen throughout the final battles against Kokushibo and Muzan. They all involve purely offensive attacks, most of which utilize rotating movements to generate swift whirlwind-like slashes that greatly increase the wielder's striking range, or utilizing the air around them to deliver sharp sickle-like shaped attacks. The only known or previously mentioned wind breathers was Sanemi's old best friend, Masachika Kumino, who was the actual reason for Sanemi even becoming a Demon Slayer core member in the first place. But I guess that's another story for another day. Next up, and one of 2 offshoots of wind breathing, is the complete nutcase of a character, Inosuke Hashibera's own beast breathing style that he personally created and worked on after having to live in the mountains and fight for survival. So because of this, it can be assumed that like others, it can only be utilized by someone with dual Nichiren katanas and an extremely acute sense of touch, so pretty much only Inosuke. But obviously I shouldn't even be saying this form when it comes to the beast himself, as unlike other breathing techniques, only supplement moves are called forms, whereas assaulting beast breathing moves are called fangs instead. Like for example, Inosuke's 4th Fang, Slice and Dice, has him deliver multiple diagonal double slashes with both swords, making it an assaulting move, compared to his 8th form Explosive Rush, where he just charges towards his opponent at blinding speeds while swinging both of his swords all over the place. Because of this almost randomness in his abilities, of which there are at least 10 different forms, people seem to think that all of his attacks will be simple and straightforward, yet are pretty much always caught off guard by his animalistic movements and insane unpredictability. The last breathing style or form derived from wind is that of Muichiro Tokito's, and what I assume to be his own developed mist breathing style. This is not due to his weapon being any different exactly, but more or less the clothes that he wears during battle that helps to obscure him from the enemy's line of sight. Mist breathing is a style that imitates mist, trying to obscure the user's movements and techniques from the enemy. There are a total of 7 known different forms and techniques, all of which involve swift strikes and movements performed in a unique pattern that obscures the opponent's senses and surroundings as if the battlefield were enveloped in mist. As I said earlier, I think this is Muichiro's own developed breathing style, but there very much may have been a predecessor, as it is never hinted at him previously using wind breathing anywhere that I could find prior to him using mist breathing. When it comes to the final of the 5 main breathing styles, and the final breathing style in general derived from Yoruichi's sun breathing, we have Gyome's version of the stone breathing. I only say his version for the fact that he uses a giant flail connected by chain to an axe, and during Kokushibo's flashback, an ancestor of stone breathing is seen wielding a giant Kusarigama-like weapon, so it could be possible that each of the stone Hashira in the past have had a slightly different version to work and pair with their weapon, just like how other slayers have been seen to do so when creating their own techniques. Stone breathing has at least 5 different forms, with all of them being seen throughout the story. These techniques all utilize the ground beneath the user and the vast surroundings to generate powerful and sturdy attacks that specialize in both offense and defensive capabilities. And to wrap the video up guys, I think stone breathing out of all the other forms probably is the 3rd strongest, just below moon breathing being the 2nd strongest, and then sun breathing obviously being the strongest of them all, for the fact that it's the originator's form and the original form in general, so you can't really get much stronger than that, I would assume. Yo, what up? Thanks for sticking to the end of the video. If you guys have managed to stick to the very end of this Demon Slayer breathing forms video. Obviously, I'm puffed as shit right now. I tried climbing a tree over there. I don't know if I've put any of the editing in to record it at the top of the tree. I wish it was a little bit more like Tanjiro and had the ability to be able to just jump up a tree or something like that with like a water breathing jump form, but I don't, I'm too poor. So obviously if you guys have enjoyed the video and want to see more stuff like this from like obviously Jujutsu Kaisen and Demon Slayer for all like the breathing forms or innate abilities explained, make sure you let me know down in the comment section below so I can do them all in the next up and coming videos. I hope you guys like where I am in the middle of absolutely
nowhere in a forest with a bird chilling on a tree over there. Yeah, whatever. And that dickie with a chainsaw from the last video is still over there. I only moved 10 meters away from where I last was. But obviously, if you guys have enjoyed the video, then make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you are new around here, actually fucking own a reverse card, then hit that like button as well. But for now, it's been your professional degenerate Diavolo, and I'll see you all in a bit. Bye.